Onze volgende is professor Dr. Evangelia. Zij is hoogleraar arbeids- en organisatiepsychologie en Chief Diversity Officer aan de Technische Universiteit in Eindhoven. En ze is ook nog als professor verbonden aan de Universiteit van Johannesburg. En ze spreekt vele talen, Grieks, Nederlands, Duits en Engels onder andere. En in overleg hebben we besloten om de aankondiging in het Nederlands te doen, want dat verstaat ze ook dus heel goed. Maar ze zal haar keynote wel in het Engels geven vandaag. Zij studeerde psychologie aan de Universiteit van Griekenland, is gepromoveerd in Duitsland, cum laude. En vervolgens als postdoc gewerkt onder andere in het Erasmus Universiteit, de Radboud Universiteit en de Universiteit van Utrecht. En inmiddels meer dan 200 publicaties. En zij sluit aan bij het verhaal en spreekt vandaag over professional well-being en work-life balance. Een hartelijk applaus voor Evangelia Demerouti.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I'm very honored to be in a conference that are not only psychologists around me. So for the following 20 minutes, I will take with you in a journey that I have done already since 90-something. I don't say exactly. So I will discuss actually your role as an employee, which was already started by the previous presenter, namely your well-being and your work-life balance. And I will do that not because I think that it is not important to know about new methods and therapies and medicine, but because what I will talk about is important for you to make sure that you avoid making mistakes or that you develop your creativity and coming up with solutions for the problems in your medical practice. Or, for instance, it will help you to be more patient-oriented and more centered to the customers, to your customers. And and how do you do that? So, in order to make sure that that you do that, the working environment around you should be appropriate to facilitate you doing that. And this is exactly what will be the zoom of my talk. Which environment contributes to healthy employees and optimally functioning employees? How do you manage to balance work and private life? And what can you do yourself to create the conditions that are appropriate for you as an employee? And also some evidence about interventions so that you can understand that this is not something that you have or you don't have, that this is something that you can learn. About the work environment, I'm very happy that I'm the third speaker because already the previous speaker talked about that. If you try to reflect a little bit about your daily work, you will realize that there are, whatever job you do, there are always aspects that require your effort, that you have to fulfill and to finish, to finalize in a given time, and that they also cost your energy when you are exposed to these aspects. We call these aspects job demands. I don't know where I have to point here. These are the job demands, and these are aspects like your physical environment, the chair that you are sitting, the machinery that you use, mental demands, how difficult are the problems that you need to solve, emotional demands, how problematic are the situations that you are confronted with at your work, shift work, workload, how many customers you need to patients you need to serve in a specific day. So these are demands, and they exist in every job. But fortunately, in every job, we also have resources. These are aspects that help you to deal with your job, with your demands, help you to fulfill your demands with less costs, and help you to develop yourself. For instance, feedback. Feedback is some information that you can get to make your job, to do your job tasks easier, better, more effective. Coaching, somebody that will help you how to do that better. Social support, we saw before, will help you to deal with trauma. Autonomy, the freedom to decide yourself. So these are aspects that will help you to deal with your demands with less costs. And as you see, they have to be in balance. These two groups of work characteristics are not only important because they nicely describe this balloon that surrounds you as an employee, but they are also important because they are initiators of two different processes that take place in every job, whatever job you can imagine, or in whatever country we did these studies, we find the same. Namely, job demands are aspects that are responsible for a health impairment or an energy impairment process. This is the red part. The higher the demands, the more the energy is depleted by people, and the more possible it is that over time they develop health problems. And of course, this has unfavorable effects on outcomes. At the same time, there is always a motivational process. So the higher the job resources, the more people are motivated to invest their effort in their job, and in the end, this has favorable effects on outcomes. Burnout is when your energy is depleted and your motivation is low. High exhaustion and high cynicism or distance from work. And this is the outcome of high demands and low resources. Yeah? Okay, so you heard a little bit about the problem, and you had, the work environment that may influence the well-being of the employees, and of course, the performance as an outcome. Here is some evidence about what are the outcomes that we were able to predict based on this model, and actually the outcomes of burnout. As you see, the health impairment process is the predictor of long-term absence, that is normally indicator of ill health, or the motivational process is an outcome or can lead to higher frequency of absenteeism, usually on Monday or on Friday, so that people can have a longer weekend. Or here you see some many other outcomes, among others also creativity and customer orientation, better customer orientation, etc. This is an example of a study in which we used different sources of information to predict actually the service quality. We used observations to observe the number of interruptions that people were exposed to during the observation time. We asked the employees to report their own cynicism, this part of burnout, the motivational part. And we observed the reaction to customers and asked also the customers to report how they experienced the service. And as you see, people who receive low support from their organization, Dr. Greenenberg also talked about that, are more cynical towards their job, and also when they are more often interrupted, which is a demand, because you have to put effort again to come back to your task. They also experience more cynicism, which they showed towards their customers, and the customers, of course, experience it as low quality of service. I just talked about demands and resources as two different things, but they are very much related. The best case scenario, when we want to have engaged employees and employees who perform best, who are more creative, who serve better their patients and come up with good solutions, is when resources are high and demands are high. There is a lot going on, and you have a lot of help. So this is the work engagement quadrant. And the opposite, of course, the worst case scenario is when you have high demands and low resources. A lot is asked by your work, and you don't get so much help. That is where you are expected to experience burnout over time. How do you come there? That's actually the question. And how do we avoid that people end up in this quadrant? This you can do as an organization top-down. You as an organization, as a manager, director, have influence on how many assignments an employee can do on a day, and how many patients you need to serve, how many publications you need to do to get a promotion, whatever, depending on the context that you are employed on, and how much help you get. So this is the top-down flow, but there is also a bottom-up flow, because you are the one who know best what fits to you and what you need in order to perform better. So we also have a bottom-up or proactive part in which you are in control and you can influence. So I will talk now a little bit on the rest of my speech about what you can do so that you can optimize your work environment so that you are in the optimal quadrant, high demands or affordable high demands and sufficiently high resources in your workplace. And the take-home message, I say it already because I don't know how much time I will have to go through my evidence. I do, but I don't know how fast I can talk because speaking is determined 50% by the listener, I learned yesterday. So it depends also on how you react to me, how much I will talk about every slide that I have. So you probably need it also for your own practice, what I just said. So my take-home message is actually that the employees, like you, will remain healthy and function effectively in their work and non-work domain when their demands are affordable, not too high, but affordable, and resources are sufficiently high. And with resources, I talk about psychosocial resources, as you noticed in the previous slides. And when they use strategies that help them to recognize and regulate their external and internal demands and resources. So when it is given by the outside, by the organization, and when you are able to arrange it yourself. Important is, of course, that you know the best case scenario, where you need to go with your proactive attempts to improve your work environment, or as an organization, what you need to offer to your employees. So, work-life balance. You know yourself, of course, that work-life balance is when you balance the demands and between your work and your family. But at the same time, we also have you. And you are also there somehow in the sense of, yeah, you're not only defined by what you do at your work and at your home. So, but you're also defined by your own personal interests, hobbies, your me time. So the work-family nexus is actually how good do you manage to give time and effort and to devote yourself to the different life domains, including yourself. And what we know is that the more demanding a role is, the more conflict, the more potential for conflict is, that you experience conflict between the different domains, and the more resources a domain offers to you, the more facilitation or enrichment will take place. You will be better able to participate in different roles when your partner supports you. What we know about inter-role management is that the people very often do the same in different life domains. We call that spillover. Or they compensate for things that they miss in one domain. If you have a boring job, you might be more inclined to do more active free time activities. And there are even people who segment, who completely separate life domains. So these are ways and strategies that people use to deal with different roles. But what we do find in our research is that whatever we look at and in whatever country we look at, people strive for a meaningful life in their work, but also outside their work. It is not so that when people go home, they do nothing. And that doing nothing means that they are okay, so that they are recovered and they go back to work again the next day. They strive to do also in their free time, in their me time, something that is meaningful for them. And yeah, I will not talk too much about these parts, but what I want to show you is, again, evidence about what I just said. High demands make people over time to experience more conflict and distress, whereas a supportive supervisor makes people to experience facilitation between life domains. And this was a 1-year time lag study. Further on, what we looked at is people who are active in their job, are they also active outside their job? And I talked about that already, about the job crafting strategy, which is then a strategy that people use to balance their demands and resources with their own abilities and preferences and to find meaning in their job. And what they do is normally they expand the scope of their job, voluntarily take new assignments, serve more customers and indicate that they do more, like what you said, that you were the anti-smoking person voluntarily at the IMC, that is expansion-oriented crafting. or they reduce the scope of their job. They do less to get rid of some of the things that they don't like to do. And what we saw was by doing a study in 6 European countries, a daily diary study, on days that people are active in their job, seek more challenges, look for more demands, they are also more actively searching for challenges and resources in their private time. So active jobs make people active in their private life as well, and less inclined to do less in their free time. It is not so that after a day that you did that and that you're probably tired, that you go home and you do nothing. So this is for me, actually very good news, because we should see people in their totality, and what they do in their work is very much responsible also about what they do at home. So as an employer, you have actually the social responsibility to challenge the well-being of your employees as well. This is at least my interpretation of that. And now we'll go a little bit more on job crafting research, in which we have seen, and you will wonder, when people adjust their job, is that something that we should do? Is it allowed to do? Yeah, and do we find it in every job? Or I'm an assembly line worker, do I do that also there? Yes, we do that. We see it everywhere. It occurs daily, and it is triggered particularly by unfavorable conditions in your work, in your private life, on yourself, and your misfit, organizational change, workload, things that trigger you to do something to deal with a situation. It is facilitated by contextual factors that give you more freedom, more support, other people that do that imitate the behavior, and it has positive effects, both on well-being and performance. For instance, on days that people experience high workload, werkdruk, and higher autonomy, they are more actively searching for resources, because resources help them to deal with the demands, with the workload. Or on days that people craft more, they experience more meaning, are more engaged in their job, are more service-oriented, and network more, which is necessary for many types of jobs as well. Here we had the chance to investigate 146 newcomers engineers that started at the same moment in a company, which is unique, and that happens only in China, not in Europe, unfortunately. And there we could look at the impact of leadership, that was also discussed before, on this crafting behavior, well-being, and creativity. And what we saw was that empowering leaders, so leaders who give autonomy to employees and support them to use this autonomy, make people more inclined to craft their job, which makes them more engaged in their job, and they are rated by their supervisors as more creative, which is something that engineers should do more. So that even starting blanco, starting a new job from scratch, from zero, you see that a leader can stimulate such kind of behavior of their employees. Here I will not say so much, but I investigated indeed the pilots from the British pilots after the accident that happened at Germanwings. And what we saw was that British pilots also use job crafting, and that the more they use it, the better they perform in the simulation training. That is a performance indicator for them. And that burnout hinders the use of job crafting behavior, which is bad news, of course, because when people are burnt out, they are not going to use this effective strategy that would help them to be less burnt out. We have evidence for intervention. We did an intervention in a hospital. I just picked that one because it's interesting for you, where we teach this behavior to colleagues of yours. Well, they reflected on this past behavior, and the first presenter will maybe confirm me that it is very difficult to have behavioral change. But we talked to these medical specialists for, in that case, 2.5 hours. And after that, they set their own job crafting goal that they fulfilled weeks afterwards. And then we measured them before and after this training. And what we saw was that indeed, The participants of the intervention group, that's a green line, reported more crafting behavior, but also more engagement after the training than before, and then the control group. And then the hospital was asking, why did the control group decrease their work engagement? Yeah. We don't know. It was a change period, and that is, of course, not a good period for people to be engaged in their work. They become more anxious, and as you see, also more exhausted, the control group, but experimental group improves or reduced exhaustion. They were more healthy, more adaptive, and better performing. And why did that happen? Because it was surprising to me. I thought, don't they have enough challenges themselves? Yeah, they apparently, what is important here is the training helped the medical specialists to seek the challenges that fit to them. And this is exactly the motivating part here. You have to look yourself, what motivates you in your job, and search for it. And this is what motivates you actually to become more adaptive, more engaged, more enthusiastic about your job. And the last one is, I say it very proudly, which is something that we don't have in psychology, a randomized control trial study in which we indeed randomly assigned people in the experimental and the control group. Here you see the website where you can follow also yourself this training, because it was developed by the Corona subsidy from NVO. It's for free. It's only Dutch. And where we found that indeed people, when teaching people how to recognize their own emotions, emotional intelligence, made them less fatigued, more motivated, better performing, and more happy during the Corona period, which is actually for me very good. I made some people happy, happier than they would have been without my intervention. Another strategy that seemed to be very effective during the Corona period, but also afterwards, is relaxation. That was also very favorable, and helping people to find, to manage the different roles. Because, of course, due to Corona, the boundaries between the roles were blurred. So, and that is actually what we found here. And as I said, this training you can attend yourself and in your own time, and exactly teaches you this strategy that help you to restore the balance. Having said that, I hope that you will remember my simple message, for which I showed you some scientific evidence from different kinds of studies, that the well-being, your well-being, is an outcome of two different processes: the health impairment process, which starts from high demands and that may exhaust your energy and make you unhealthy, and the motivational process that starts with high resources and that make you more enthusiastic and motivated and engaged in your job. Employees are active creators of this context. So next to top-down, you can also adjust your job and home demands and resources. And job crafting is a bottom-up tool that can be used to stimulate your well-being and your effective functioning, and complements top-down interventions. And I think that crafting is even stimulating that is actually something that would help your patients as well. Because I see in my research that people who are in need are particularly profiting from this fit between what they have and what they get. And stimulating that exact behavior, recognize and regulate, will help also your patients to improve. Thank you very much. I took a few minutes more. And and I had my email. If you need to ask me anything, feel free to contact me.
Thank you very much, Evangelia, for this interesting overview. Thanks.